In this video, I'm going to go through my process of doing subtractive EQ on a male and female vocal. But before we get started, my name is Ed, you're watching Stokes Sounds, and if you like this video, please make sure that you hit the like button, subscribe and leave a comment. And if you want to support the channel, head over to our website, stokessounds.com. Now let's dive in. So I've got a male and female vocal here. The male vocal is by Brooklyn Wyatt and the female vocal is by Olivia Nicole. Both great artists. I'm going to play them both one after each other so you can hear what we're dealing with.
I'm thinking about you lots lately. You could be sleep alone like me. Do you stay at home all night? I'm glad you're alone tonight. And you're already falling in the deep end. For what it's worth, I knew we should have stayed friends. Don't bring me up to cry. You already said your goodbye.
And then we've got Olivia, the female vocal.
If tomorrow never comes, what would you say to yourself? If you knew this is your last day, would you still do it all again? Wasting your time, wasting your life, being a victim of your mind. If tomorrow never comes, would you still do it all again?
So as you can hear, they're both great vocalists, and of course that's always the best thing. When you have a great vocalist, it makes everything else super easy. So the first thing I do when I'm approaching kind of doing EQ and shaping the voice is I kind of listen to what things do I not like in the recording itself, and I take out before I do any additive. And so the way that I'm doing this is I'm using a Pro Q3. You could use any EQ that's in your toolbox that does the same thing. I'm just using the Pro Q3 just because it's in my toolbox and I just find it the easiest to use. So the first thing, I know that I don't want much low end in the vocal, because when this is within the actual music itself, you're not going to hear below 60 hertz on a male vocal. So the first thing I do is I just get a high pass filter and I just kind of feel where I'm not losing too much body of the vocal, but I'm also, don't have too much low end in the vocal that's going to make it sound muddy.
I'm glad you're alone tonight.
That sounds good to me there. I've done a high pass filter up to about 78 hertz, which is kind of usual for a male vocal. With female vocals, as you'll see in the next example, it'll probably be around 100 hertz. But in this case, it's around 78 hertz, and that's just getting rid of all of the rumble, the room sound, all the things that is just unnecessary to have in a vocal that's just going to build up mud in the mix. So that's the way that I attack a vocal when it comes down to subtractive EQ. The next thing I'm going to do is get like a bell curve, and I'm just going to create it quite narrow, and I'm just going to sweep through the vocal and find out any resonant frequencies that are hurting my ears, and I'm going to dip them out. That's the frequency there that I don't like, so I'm going to now reduce that. And what I like to do is I like to hit Shift Option, and that turns it into a 24 dB curve instead of a 12. Now the reason why I like doing 24 dB is just because I feel like it sounds better. It's a bit more rounder. It's not as like aggressive when you're doing the notch filtering, so it just sounds a bit kind of smoother, and I like that. And then I'm just going to reduce that until I feel like the vocal is getting too thin. And if it is, I then push it back a little bit so I'm not taking out as much.
I'm thinking about you lots lately. You could be sleep alone like me. Do you stay at home all night? I'm glad you're alone tonight. And you're already falling in the deep end. For what it's worth, I knew we should have stayed friends. Don't bring me up.
That's sounding good to me. And then I just do it again. I feel like there's an annoying frequency in there. I don't know if it's like a resonant of something that was in the room when we were recording the vocal, but I'm just going to do a really tight notch now and just try and just go through the frequency spectrum. And just as soon as I hear it, I'm just going to dip it down.
Tonight, and you're already falling.
That's it. I absolutely hate that, and I'm going to be very drastic. I'm actually just going to turn it all the way down.
I'm thinking about you lots lately. You could be sleep alone like me. Do you stay at home all night? I'm glad you're alone tonight.
Now you might look at that and think, what on earth am I doing? I'm taking minus 30 dB down at 1.3K. And you might be thinking that is super drastic. But the thing is, you can be drastic. You know, if there's a frequency that is sounding absolutely horrible, it could have been the room sound, it could have been something that was resonating off a speaker, for example. It could be anything. If it's not doing any good to the vocal, and if you do take it out completely, it's not affecting the vocal kind of tone, the body, then there's no need for it to be in there. So you might as well just take it all out completely. And that's what I do. I'm very kind of A or B when it comes down to it. If you do a little bit, it does sometimes work. But with this kind of frequency, I feel like it just needed taken out completely. So I did. And now I'm going to go and filter out any more frequencies that I don't like.
I'm glad you're alone tonight. And you're already falling in the deep end. For what it's worth, I knew we should have stayed friends. Don't bring me up to cry. You already said your goodbye. I'm thinking about you lots lately. You could be in sleep. I'm thinking about you lots lately. You could be sleep alone like me. Do you stay at home all night? I'm glad you're alone tonight. And you're already falling in the deep end. For what it's worth, I knew we should have stayed friends. Don't bring me up to cry. I'm thinking me, do you stay at home all night? I'm glad you're alone tonight. And you're already falling in the deep end. For what it's worth, I knew.
Now, if we listen to this EQ on and then bypassed, you'll see what it's doing.
I'm thinking about you lots lately. You could be sleep alone like me. Do you stay at home all night? I'm glad you're alone tonight. And you're already falling in the deep end. For what it's worth, I knew we should have stayed friends. Don't bring me up to cry.
So you can hear there, it's not a huge difference, but it's just making that vocal just a little bit more expensive sounding. It's taking the frequencies that, you know, I felt like were being annoying, the room sound. I took some boxiness out the vocal, and you saw that there's around a 9.4K frequency, which can make mic sound a bit cheap when that's kind of in there, and it's you know, my ears are really kind of sensitive to those kind of frequencies. So that was the EQ curve for that vocal, and again, it looks very drastic, but every vocal is different. So you don't look at a vocal EQ and go, oh, I'm going to copy those settings, because it won't work. But my point being is, I just want to show you how drastic an EQ can look, and not to the textbook of let's just do a high pass filter, take out some boxiness, and that's it. Sometimes you have to go a little bit further depending on what you're given. So that's for the male vocal. Now here we got the female vocal, and let's pull up the EQ. Again, I'm using the same EQ, Pro Q3. Again, you can use any EQ that you like, and I'm just going to go through the same approach but just with a female voice, and let's see what we get.
If tomorrow never is your last day, would you still do it?
Similar thing, 24 dB, and let's just put this in a loop, and let's just take it out and see what we get.
Tomorrow never comes. What would you say to yourself if you knew this is your last day? Would you still do it all again? Wasting your time, wasting your life, being a victim of your mind. If tomorrow never comes, would you still? If tomorrow never comes, what would you say to yourself if you knew this is your last day? Wasting your time, wasting your life, being a victim of your mind. If tomorrow never comes, would you still?
I felt like in this vocal around 825 was annoying me. In the male vocal it was around 1.3. For some reason in Olivia's vocal it's 825. Again, it just could be the key, could be the room. There's so many things that can change what frequency it is. So you honestly just have to use your ears. But this is what I'm getting so far. Let's keep going, see if there's anything in kind of the top mid-range, high end as well.
Tomorrow never comes. What would you say to you?
Yeah, a little bit sharp at 3K. It's quite popular on female vocals.
Tomorrow never comes. What would you say to yourself if you knew this is your last day? Would you still?
On the T's, when she's singing, the T's and the S's, again, you could use a de-esser for this, but I'm going to take a little bit out on this subtractive EQ. There's certain things that is kind of pushing that, and it's poking out to my ear, and you'll probably be hearing that on your end too. There's just certain frequencies and certain words, and it just makes them just really pop out, and I want to kind of balance it out, tonally with EQ. So again, let's just do the same approach, take it out.
Tomorrow never comes. What would you say to yourself if you knew this is your last day? Would you still?
You have to be very careful again with how much you take out, because you can lose that kind of really nice pop kind of sizzle, which is a little bit further up, normally around 15k. So around 7 to 10k is a little bit more kind of okay to do, but you do have to again be very careful with how much you're taking out, because you don't want to make the vocal sound dead. So it really is this balancing act. Let's see if there's any other annoying frequencies.
Tomorrow never comes. What would you?
It's interesting, this vocal was done on the same mic in the same room, and it's around this kind of 1 to 1.5k, in this case 1.4. It's just that annoying frequency. Let's just take it out all the way and just see what we get.
Tomorrow never comes. What would you say to yourself if you knew this is your last day? Would you still do it all again? Wasting your time, wasting your life, being a victim of your mind.
I'm going to take it out all the way. Again, it must be something in the room that's just really resonating. It could be the mic, it could be something that's bouncing off the wall, it could be honestly anything. And to me, it's like a room kind of sound, that, and I just want to take it out completely, so that's why I'm doing -30. Now let's have a listen to this vocal with the EQ bypassed and with it on, and let's just see what this is doing.
Tomorrow never comes. What would you say to yourself if you knew this is your last day? Would you still do it all again? Wasting your time, wasting your life, being a victim of your mind. If tomorrow never comes, would you still do it all again?
Sounds much better to me with the EQ, just sounds nicer and more pleasant to the ear. If we actually take a look, so we've got the female vocal on the right, and then let's have a look at Brooke's one. You can see that they're slightly different, very similar frequencies, but again, slightly different depending on the voice, and as I say, the way that they're singing it, the key of the song and all of that sort of stuff. But it is similar. And as I say, these vocals were recorded with the same mic, with the same room, so you will notice that there will be, similar frequencies more so than if they weren't in the same room. But you get the point of, this is how I approach subtractive EQ. I listen to a vocal, I take out the things I don't like, the things I hate, the things that I know that are just not necessary, and then I go on from there and apply my vocal chain to make things sound nice. I'm a big believer, if you take things that you don't like out and then you then add things, so do additive EQ after doing your subtractive, it just seems a much better way and a bit more an obvious way to me to do this than add EQ, you know, additive EQ before taking out the things I don't like. But again, that's just the way that I work. And that's it. That's my approach to subtractive EQ on vocals. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you think in the comments, and also check out the links in the description below as well. I also have my free mixing template for you guys to download as well. I'll see you all again next week for another video.